joining me today on I was going to say the podcast. It's not the podcast, it's the live podcast, for want of a better word. So, what was I saying? Yes, I was talking about podcasting and how popular it has come over the last year or so, especially in Ireland. We are actually ranked very, very high in the world as one of the best podcasting nations, along with America and along with, I think it's the UK as well. Now, I have been podcasting for the last year. It started off with, I record a radio show every week that goes out in Charity Radio. You may have heard it. I also do All Ladies. And basically, I wasn't able to get into the studio every week because of commitments of work and so on. So Mark O'Toole, who is the station manager in Charity Radio, kindly said, look, let's put a studio into your house. And we did, and here it is here. And you can see here, I'll give you a quick look. You'll see here on the desk, there's the mixing desk and all that. So we have all the equipment. So it's all radio broadcast equipment, which is fantastic. And what happened was it used to sit here every week. I'd do my show, 2-hour show, whatever it may be, and then I would let it sit there, and it would be gathering dust all week. Now, I would cover it because if Mark's listening, but anyway. But what I would do is it would sit there for the week. So I decided one day, I said, I'm interested in this podcasting. So I went off, done a little bit of research on it, and decided, yeah, this could work. And we started the podcast, and if you listen to some of the early podcasts, they're quite rough. They're not as polished as the ones that I do at the moment, which is great. And I'm only saying, I'm not blowing my own trumpet here. That's just from the comments and the people that have come on the podcast of what they've said and their testimonials, which has been fantastic. So we started off, and we are now, I think it's on number 48, so we've about another 4 or so to go to give us a full year of podcasts, which is really, really fantastic, and I'm so thrilled that it has just taken off. What it's done for me has increased my I suppose my expertise in regards to podcasting. It's also introduced me to so many new people that I would have never gotten the chance to ever talk to before. On whether it be actually here in Dublin or here in around the world or whatever. Thanks, Wendy. She are fab. Thanks very much. I'm delighted to hear you like that. Anyway, but. As I said, there is no way in this world that I would have been able to speak to the people that I've spoken to over the last year. If you haven't listened to any of the podcasts, I would advise you maybe go have a little look at them, see if you like anything. Let's just put that up there. There it is there. You'll find it on the website. It's all there, compassmedia.ie/resources/podcasts. Anyway, that's what I just wanted to say about that. But as I said, I would have never had that opportunity before to go off and do podcasts with these social media influencers. And, as someone said to me the other day, your index, Alan, must be phenomenal with all of these people, with all these contacts in it. And you know what? I have to admit, it's great when I look and I can, I have all these people's email addresses and I know them all and whatever. And that came through podcasting, guys. Now, what I want to talk to you about is what podcasting is all about, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a few stats that's actually going to blow your mind. And it blew my mind when I actually looked into it in more detail. There is 45 million people searching iTunes every day. That's, every month. Every day. Yeah, right. 45 million people searching iTunes every month, right? That is incredible. There is 315 million people access iTunes on a monthly basis, right? That's 525 million active users. And most of them are coming from from iPhones or from tablets. There is a certain amount of desktops as well. It's just incredible to think that there's so many people out there that are using the iTunes platform. Now, I'm really only talking today about iTunes for the simple reason it's probably the mothership, if you want, of for podcasts and stuff like that. That's where most people will go if they have an app on their phone. If they're on iPhone, they have the podcast app. If they're on Android, they have the Android version of it from Google, the Google Play one. And they also have Stitcher Radio. There's all these huge podcasting providers out there that can, put your podcast out, and then it goes out to the masses of people. It's absolutely incredible what you can do with it. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is about, should you start a podcast? My answer to you, yes, you should. You should start a podcast. Colette's saying you have forgotten to mention the fantastic testimonials you have received from most of the influencers in the world. Yeah, well, I have, but I don't like. I'm very modest when I say that, Colette. Thanks for pointing it out. Yes, we have had testimonials from Ted Rubens, Madeline Sklar, Vivica Von Rosen, Paula Mahoney. Oh, they're on the website. You'll find them on the website. But thanks for mentioning that, Colette. But at the end of the day, I enjoy it. And I think it's a really, really good way of connecting with influencers and connecting with like-minded business people around the world. Saying that, why should you start a podcast? Well, if you want to get your message out there, or you want to show your expertise out there, it's the perfect place. It's the perfect platform for you to do that. I went down the road of interviewing guests, and really, I love that because I'm able to interact with all of these different businesses or these different influencers right across the world. I'll give you, for instance, 2 weeks ago, I interviewed Mike Alton from the Social Media Hat, right? I connected with Mike maybe a year ago, and I asked him to come on the podcast, and he did, and we had a great chat, and we talked all about blogging, best practices, and it was a really, really interesting program. At the end of the program, what I always would do is ask the person who's on with me, do they know anyone, or could they suggest anyone that I could talk to? In turn, he says Jen Herman, right, who has wrote over 100 different blogs on Instagram, or about Instagram marketing. So he introduced me to her, he gave me the introduction, I contacted Jen, and we recorded a podcast last Friday, which will go out in about 3 weeks' time. So from that, I was able to get, you start meeting so many different people, and they're all fantastic. And you know what, guys? If you're in the situation where you say to yourself, oh, well, I couldn't be talking to all these, these big names and whatever, forget about it. Ted Rubens, when I interviewed him, I think it was the 5th or 6th podcast that I did, I actually was sitting waiting for him, and I was sitting here in the office here, in the house, in the spare room, in what I call the studio and the office, all in one, and I'm sitting here waiting, and I says, I don't know if he's going to come in or not. And a few minutes later, the doorbell rings, which is like what I use Zoom, and we call it the doorbell rang, and in comes Ted. And he, hi Alan, how are you? And I says, sorry I'm late. He says, sorry I'm late. I'm just after getting off an interview with CNN News about something that happened on Amazon. Now, okay guys, I'm going to say this to you, right? I'm sitting here and I'm going, this is probably my 5th podcast. I was only starting out type of thing. If I wasn't nervous enough speaking to him, could you imagine how nervous I was after that? And Ted Rubin gave me a piece of advice that I'll never forget, and I've carried it through on all of the podcasts that I've ever done, and that is simply, we're having a chat. Me and you, it doesn't matter who I am or what I am. Me and you are just having a chat. And that is probably one of the best piece of advice I ever received on doing these podcasts. So what my point being is that, if you're going to do a podcast, yes, shoot for the stars. Go for the big names. Go for them all. If that's what you're going to do, if you're going to do an interview-based podcast, that's the way to go. How do you do it? Connect with them on Twitter, connect with them on LinkedIn, join them in groups, mention them, talk to them across all the social media platforms. It's not that hard. We do it every day with our friends. We're on here, we have Wendy, we have Nolene, we have Colette sitting here talking to us, right? We've made great connections, all of us here. There's no reason why you can't talk to, I don't know, Richard Branson, maybe. Whoever it is that you want to have on your podcast. If you're doing a interview-based style podcast, there's a few tricks. I'm not going to go into them right away, but I will say to you, that's what you want to do. What else can a podcast do for you? As I said, it can connect you with influencers in your niche. Okay? That's the key. Your niche. Don't go try to be all things to everybody. Try to be in your niche. Just do it what it is that you are good at, that you have expertise as. Because if you're doing, especially if you're doing an interview-based podcast, you don't want to be just the host. What you want to be is you want to be an expert as well. Because you are. It's just what you're doing every day. Okay? It's like me when I go on and I talk to these guys. I'm not afraid to air my views. Even if I don't think, I will pull them up on it. And if I don't think it's right, I'll say, I don't agree with that. I come at it from a different angle. And it's a great conversational piece as well. And it's really interesting because you learn so much as well from it. The other thing it does is it builds your authority. And that's a very important part. I've noticed an increase in what I do from last year to this year through the podcasting, right? My business has gotten more busier. I've gotten more work out of it because of this, because people started to see me as an authority, okay? It also gives me a lot more credibility, okay? Now, I'm not sitting here blowing my own trumpet saying, oh, look at me. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is if you are doing this, and if people are watching you or listening to you, they're going to start taking an interest in you. Plus, the other part of that is you have more content to push out. Now, see, this is another part of it, okay? Grow your audience. And you can launch a business from a podcast. I know one particular girl who has launched her business through her podcast. Her podcast, she started it a year ago. And since then, she has launched her business out of it because of the podcast was so successful and what she was talking about. It was a solo podcast that she went on, and every week she done a podcast, and she said she talked about a particular part of her business, and she has gotten so much more business out of that. And that is coming up in a few months' time. We're organising dates to get her on the program and have a chat with her about that as well. What else can it do? It creates a platform for you to sell your products or your services. Okay? Now think about that. Another platform. Okay, so you have your website, you have your social media, you do your online advertising, you do your offline advertising. Okay? Here's another avenue for you to explore. Okay? You can create your own platform for selling your products and your services. I.e., when we do a podcast, I may say, well, we are running a particular course, and if you want to find out more information, visit our website, blah, 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 so on and so forth. That goes on the podcast. Now, the beauty of this is, if I'm doing an online course, right, that online course is going to stay up on whatever platform, whether it be Thinkific or Udemy or whatever it may be, right, that's going to stay up there for a lifetime, okay? Hence, my content is evergreen, okay? So if you listen to that tomorrow, you can avail of that course. If you listen to it in 6 months' time, you can avail of that course. In a year's time, you can still avail of that course because it's still there. So, unless you're promoting an event, well and good, you can promote that event. But what I would do is I would say to you, maybe go in after, maybe the event is over, and edit it and whip that piece out and then just put it back up again. And it's still there. But what I'm saying to you is it's a great way of selling your products and your services for more people to see. The other one, it amplifies your business and you can reach people that you would have never reached before. I give you, for instance, I was doing one particular podcast and this particular person heard about me and listened into the podcast, and I got an email 2 days later saying, Alan, I'd love to talk to you. I heard your podcast. I was wondering, could we do a Skype call? Okay. This guy was in Australia. Since then, I've done 3 projects for him. Okay. That's how my reach has reached out. That's how I've gotten more business. I've literally been starting to go. I'm not just in Ireland anymore. I'm worldwide because of these podcasts. Okay, it also helps you achieve success because it's success from you in yourself. Because if you're sitting there and you're going, oh well, I'm doing the business and I'm not doing this. Once you start connecting with people and they start talking to you, your business starts to flourish and you start to flourish because you're on the crest of a wave as much as anything else. So always remember that it's so important. They are probably the key factors about having an actual podcast. Now, I want to talk to you about equipment. Everyone thinks I have to have these wonderful big microphones. I have to have, the mixing desk. I have to have all the studio stuff. You don't have to have any of that. That's the luxury. I'm very lucky in what I have here, but you can do a podcast from your phone. You can record on your phone. You can record it on your laptop. All you need is a computer or a laptop or whatever it may be. You need a microphone and you need some editing software. How simple is that? Okay. How long? Where am I? Let me see. Where is it? I have it here somewhere. Yes, okay. Here we go. See these things here? See them? iPhone headphones. iPhone's headphones. Every set of iPhone headphones or Android headphones now come with a microphone on it. You know the microphone that it comes on it? Stick them in your ears, put them in, record it, and then you edit it. Now, it won't sound super fantastic, but you know what? Getting you started, that will do you. That will get you going. It'll get you started. Once you start getting interested in it and you start seeing it and you want to expand, there's no end of microphones that are available to buy on eBay, on Amazon, you name it, you go on. What are the ones I would say to you to look at? I know Amanda Delaney put a question in the comments earlier on saying, what equipment should I use? Okay. There's a few bits and pieces, okay. As I said, you could use your iPhone headphones and your microphone to start off with. Just be in a quiet area. Don't be trying to be surrounded by hundreds of people in a cafe or in a reception of a hotel. Try and do it in a quiet area. Next stage up, you can buy the Logitechs, the ones with the microphone that it comes over. A lot of gamers use them. Nice little set of headphones, nice little microphone. Plug it into your laptop. Off you go. Bang. Moving up the scale, Blue Yeti mic or an ATR 2100 is another great microphone. It's about $70. I don't know what that is, and I know it's $70. It fluctuates because they are probably one of the best microphones on the lower end of the scale to go out and to buy. So it's an ATR 2100. I'll get the link and I will put it in the comments later on after here as well. Then you want to move up the scale a bit, you can use the Blue Yeti mic, which is a great mic. It's a surround sound mic type of thing. What I mean by surround sound microphone, normal microphones would have one direction, like that. The Blue Yeti has a microphone on either side. It's one microphone, but it has two sides to it. So it means that if you're doing an interview-based podcast, and your guest can sit in front of you and it'll pick up the both mics. So it's a directional microphone type of thing. Really, really handy little thing. Bit more expensive. I think they're around about 120, 130 euros. Don't quote me on the prices. I will find these and I will put them in to the comments later on. The next thing, editing software. Okay, you have three options. You have the free, you have the not so free, and then you have the expensive. Okay, getting started. If you are on a Mac, GarageBand, it comes installed on your Mac computers, or you can download it. It's a free piece of software. It's a bit tricky. You need to learn it. There is tutorials on YouTube about how to use it. The one I use, and it's the simplest of a lot of them, is Audacity. Okay, it's free. It's absolutely free. There is no frills. There's nothing else about it. It's absolutely free. There is a paid version of it which gives you a bit more scope. But starting off, I still use the free version because I'm used to it. I like it, and I'm also using GarageBand now because there's a few more little things that you can put into it. But it's been a steep learning curve for me with GarageBand. There's so much in it, and you really have to get your head around it. So, but starting out, I would say use Audacity. It's very, very easy. It's a fantastic editing software. Really, really is fantastic. Well worth having a look at it. Download it onto your machine. You can record straight onto Audacity, and then you can edit it there and then as well. It's really, really it's that simple. What was the other thing? Yeah, so they're the three things. So you need a laptop or a iPhone. On an iPhone, there is a thing called let me just have a quick look here as I'm talking to you. I should really have this. It's called a Voice Recorder Pro. If you're on iOS, there's a thing called a Voice Recorder Pro, which you can download. It's in the App Store. I don't know if you can really see that. You probably won't be able to see that. But it's a really cool tool. You can record straight on, and I think it's actually available on Android as well. And you can record straight onto it, and then you can save the file and send it onto your desktop or wherever it is. Bit more finicky, but it does work. If you're out and about, it's great. So, for instance, I don't know, Wendy's maybe still here. Wendy, I know you were always in the Dublin Chamber of Commerce. So if you were starting a podcast and you wanted to interview someone as a quick little soundbite, maybe download the the voice. What did I call it? Voice Recorder Pro onto your phone. Talk to the person. Boom. Hold the microphone up to them and let them speak, and then press stop, and then save it, and then you now have a nice little soundbite that you can add onto your podcast. So really, really good. And I'm just sorry, I'm an itchy nose for some reason. Yeah, what they say, I don't know. But anyway, so there's a handy little tool that you can actually use. I'm just going to take a little drink here because I'm actually parching. Podcast myths that everyone says, and the biggest thing that I get when I talk about podcasting to people is, I haven't got the time. I say, okay, haven't got the time. 6 hours every month. Okay, 6 hours every month. 1 day. That's all you need, is 1 day. Every 4 weeks. And you might say to yourself, 6 hours for 1 week every month. Okay. If you do 6 hours, you can record 4 podcasts in that, whether they be half an hour or an hour. Then you have a small bit of editing to do. You can batch them all together, and then each week you can schedule them to go out at each week. Now you have 4 podcasts every month. How simple is that? Now, could you give up 6 hours? Okay, maybe you might say to yourself, oh, well, I'm always busy. No, you can schedule time. You schedule time for everything else, so you can schedule time for meetings, you schedule whatever. Schedule it in. Work it into your schedule. Don't understand the tech. It's, as I said to you, it's not that hard. I am going to be doing videos on all the different products and the different and how you edit and stuff like that. That's what I'm going to talk to you in a few minutes about. The next thing is I don't have a radio voice. You don't have a radio voice. Okay, so everyone says I'm super slicky and I'm yeah, blah, blah, blah. Right, okay. That's me. That is me. That's the way I speak when I've been on radio for the last 20 years. That's how I do it. I've grown up. I've figured it out. I've done that, right? Okay? But if you're doing your podcast, people don't want to hear a super cool voice. They're tuning in to hear you. Yeah? They're tuning in. That's all they're doing, is they're tuning in to hear you. Okay? How are you, Ian? How are you? Thanks for coming in and joining us. Good to see you. Thanks a lot. If people are coming on to do a podcast, if you're going to do a podcast, people want to know that it's you. So if I'm plugging out and I'm saying, okay, here's the Alan Hennessy podcast, they're expecting to hear me. They're not expecting to hear, hey, I'm pretty cool. No, they're not. What are they going to do? They're gone. Out the door. See you later. Bye. So, think about it. authentic voices work best, and that's your voice. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be trying to talk in a different form. It's like when you go to a meeting. It's like when I go out and I go to networking meetings. I am me. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to become this different person when I go into a meeting, because it's false. And people don't want that. They want real. If people are listening to podcasts, they're listening to them for a reason. 1, it's on demand. 2, it's when they want it. And 3, the biggest reason is because they feel comfortable listening to you. They can stop it at any time. They can start it at any time. They can be walking down the road. They can be listening to your podcast as they're walking along. They don't have to sit in front of a screen and go, oh, hold on, I'm just going to watch this video. They don't. They can put the earbuds into their ears. Off we go for a walk and listen to it. Driving along in the car, making the dinner, doing the ironing, whatever it is you're doing. Sitting in the office. I've often been here working and I'll have a podcast on the background. And I'll be sort of half listening to it, but if something gets my attention, I'm into it and I stop and I can replay it back and I can say, right, I want to listen to that. That's a vital thing that I'm talking about here. And remember, I think it's John Lee Dumas says it, a podcast is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Okay? It's the long game, guys. It's taken me a year to nearly record 50 episodes, right? Now, there's been weeks when I've been going, I've so much to do. But I still take that time out and I still do it because, 1, consistency, and 2, because I know that my audience is going to listen to it. I've an average of about 5,000 downloads every month on my podcasts. That's in 1 year, guys. That's serious. That's a serious amount of ears that I'm listening to. Remember, I'm going directly into someone's head every time I come on, right? This is amazing. The opportunities that you can get to meet new people. I was reading a book. I seen this guy. I'll give you a little example, right? I seen this guy being interviewed by another social media host in the States. I was talking, I was listening to him, was watching him. It was very, very interesting. So interesting. Such an interesting guy. And such an interesting topic that he was talking about. His name was Coach Bill Hart. So the next day I went and I bought the book. Well, I bought the Audible book. And I was listening to it, and I listened to it over 2 days, 3 days. Couldn't turn it off because it was so interesting. If you're looking for a book to buy, it's definitely one of those books. There's 2 books that I would recommend. This is one of them. It's called White Collar Warriors. It's Lessons for Sales Professionals from the American Military Elite. Incredible, incredible book. So I decided I'll go and I'll have a look for him online. I seen him on this particular person's podcast or this video. So I went into his comments, found him, found Bill, and then I messaged him on Facebook and I said, I'd love to, I read your book, I've listened to you, I've seen you on the show and whatever. I'd love to come on the podcast and talk about the book. And he came back about a day later and said, I'd love to. How do we do it? Right? I says, okay, fair enough. So I says, right, brilliant. I sent him off the calendar requests. He came in. We ended up doing the podcast. We'd done the podcast. I think it was 40 minutes or something like that. Really, really insightful. Very, very interesting what he was talking about. We spoke for 2 hours after it. Well, when I say 2 hours, it was in around 2 hours. But fascinating subjects. We had a good old chat after it. But I would never, ever have gotten to know, and I would have never, ever to talk to that person unless I had actually gone and researched and found the person and connected with them. And people love to go on podcasts. We love sharing, all of us. It's in our nature. We all love to share what we do. So I would advise you, if you are starting a podcast and you're interested, do go and talk to me or talk to people. And even if you want me to come on your podcast, your future podcast, I would be delighted. I'd be honoured to come on and talk on your podcast. it's amazing. It's great. It's great to be the host, but it's also great to be the guest as well. And we've had, like, I see Ian Delaney in here. We had Amanda on the podcast a couple of weeks back. It was our first ever podcast, and she loved it, and I loved it, and we got a great response back to it because it was real, guys. This is the thing about it, is it's real. The most important part I can say to you about podcasting is that you have to enjoy it as much as what the person is on the podcast. If you're not enjoying it, it's going to show. So remember to always enjoy what you're doing when it comes to your podcast. There's so much information out there around podcasting that, you know, Kevin, I'd love to come on your podcast. I'd be delighted to come on your podcast. Kevin Groom, if you haven't checked out his podcast, Kevin, you have your podcast. If you just want to pop it into the comments, and we give it a mention as well. Kevin, I just want to read a few of the comments here. Yes, Colette, yeah, you forgot to mention that. I mentioned that already. Tell them, don't be bashful, she says. Love it. Thanks very much. Ian says, great live, Alan. Very useful. No problem. I'm delighted you're getting some value from it, Ian. Also, we have Kevin Groom, and Kevin was at one of my podcasting presentations, I think, in the City West Hotel at the Biz Expo, I think, as far as I know. And he was at a number of them as well in the Bank of Ireland as well. And he says, I listened to a podcast on my way home from work again, on the way home on Stitcher. So handy. I'll be recording one myself shortly too. Brilliant stuff. That's what it's all about. Get out there. Don't be afraid not to do it. Give it a bash. Give it a go. You know, what harm is it going to do? Exactly. You know what I mean? Okay, so if you make balls of the first one or two of them, so be it. But it's a learning curve as much as anything else. And you'll enjoy it. If you're interested in it, you know, I know so many people that I could say to you, you need to do a podcast. Because what you say is absolutely amazing. And I see Linda Murray in. How are you, Linda? Oh, I haven't seen you in ages. Anyway, I'll say no more. If you're doing podcasts, you know what I mean, and if you're interested in doing them and you have a message, get it out there. You know, tell people, as I said to you, I've talked to many people and I've said, you need to do a podcast, and they say, no. I'm saying, believe me, people would love to find out more about this. We interviewed Bibi Baskin with Paul Dunphy, must be 6-8 months ago. And very interesting. We had great fun. It was like the Paul and Bibi show. It was really, really good. Paul's an absolutely lovely fella, and we were unfortunate we didn't have Mindy on the show with us that day, but she was there in spirit. And we also had, obviously, as I said, Bibi Baskin. Since then, I've now started working with Bibi Baskin, producing her podcasts. This is the opportunities that it can give you. Now, that's a particular road that I wanted to go down, and I'm really thrilled, and it's such a thrill to work with Bibi. So, like that, you know, it's opportunities that it can lead to, and some of the opportunities that you actually probably wouldn't think that they do. Joe Dalton, it was another guy who was on, and I was on Joe's show on Breakthrough Brands there a couple of weeks back. I actually put the podcast up of it on, I think it was Sunday, so it's a little special. So I just said, right, I'll just throw it up there, and we, you know, people can listen to it or whatever. And Joe saying he got a load of speaking engagements out of it because of his podcast. Now, it you know, and these are the opportunities that it actually brings and gives you to do that. It really is fantastic. I have to give a big shout out to Mark O'Toole from Charity Radio, because many years ago I started working in Charity Radio, and it was Mark who put myself, put Howard Hughes and myself together to do a business show, and I had never done interviews or anything like that before. I was always a radio DJ with music, and that was great and happy days, and I was able to do that. And then the business show came along, and it was like, okay, right, we're going to interview people. Now I was going, right, okay, what do I say? And if you ever go back and you listen to some of the early ones, they're a bit ropey, but you get into your flow. And thanks to Howard as well, because he was great at, pushing you forward and saying, right, okay, you do this and I'll do that. It worked out well. We found our levels, for want of a better word. So I have to say a big thank you to Howard and also to Mark O'Toole in Charity Radio for giving me so many great opportunities. It's one of those things that has led from one thing to another, and to another. It really is. It's powerful. I can't say to you how strong and how interesting it gets along the way. I really love and I enjoy doing them, and I know a lot of people have come back to me and said they've enjoyed them, they've enjoyed the shows, and that's a great compliment to me as much as anything else. And plus as well, then I also get to speak at other people's events about podcasting and about the journey that I've taken as well. Now, here we go. This is what I wanted to talk. This is a little thing that I wanted to show you here, right? And it's not the big sell, and I'm not here to sell stuff, but what I am here is I want to show you this, right? Okay, I'll put this up on screen. Bank of Ireland Workbench, Stillorgan Road, Montrose, Dublin, 25th of September, 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. Free event, guys. See down the end? Free event. Register on Eventbrite. It's an evening with Alan Hennessy. How do you like that, or what? And I'm going to be talking all about podcasts and best practices. I want to jump on here and talk to you and tell you, just give you an idea as to what I was talking about and what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to be talking all about that, a bit more detail as well, and particular areas of it as well. As I said, you can register on Eventbrite. See there? There's the link. Straight there. Yeah, just there, and see that one there, and that's it. You get on Eventbrite if you search for Social Media Talks, podcasting best practices. Very hard to say that, podcasting best practices. Anyway, you can get the link there on that, and I'll pop it into the comments after this as well. And I'd advise you, if you're interested in podcasting, or you want to learn more about what it is to do a podcast, pop along to the event. It's a free event. It's really, it's going to be a good night. There's limited spaces available, and I'm not just saying that, but actually when I put it out, I think I put it out last Monday, and I couldn't believe the response for it. I went, holy mother of God, we're probably going to have to do 2 of these because there was such a big demand for it. But there is spaces available, guys. So do jump on. It's free. I'm not charging anything. I'm giving you this information for absolutely nothing. All right? Simple as that. And the reason I do it is because last season we done a series of social media talks where we talked about different subjects, and we're starting it back obviously in September. First one's going to be in September. I have some really, really interesting guests coming up over the next few months. As I'm going to give you a little hint, as is, they were people that were on my podcast. And if you were at last year's season, we had Madeline Scalar, we had Cammy Heiser in as well, and this season I have a few other guests, and I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say who they are or where they're from, but all I'll say is the details will come as we release them, and you're going to enjoy them. And if you come along on the night, you're going to find out actually who is on next month before anyone else. The other thing I wanted to say to you is I am currently putting together a podcasting masterclass, and I like to call it a masterclass because I don't like to call it a workshop, because a workshop means that you come in and you try and do some work and whatever. The masterclass is me helping you to become a master at podcasting. How about that? Okay, and that's the reason why I call it a masterclass, because I think it sounds a lot, it's a lot better, and it's a lot more intuitive as well. We are going to be releasing it in the next month or so. It's 12 modules, guys. 12 modules. And it is podcasting best practices. And we take you through the whole rigmarole, the whole lot of it, from start to finish. And by the time you come out the other side of it, you're going to be podcasting and not be worrying about anything. Because we're going to teach you how to podcast, what it is a podcast is, how you actually set it up, how you grow your audience. there's loads of it. I'm not going to, there's too much for me to go into in here in detail, but well worth coming on, having a look at it. I will be probably releasing it on the night of the talk. We're all, fingers crossed, we're in the process of building it out at the moment and recording it and stuff like that. It's going to be online. It's going to be a great course, and I'm going to be giving a serious discount on the night for it. It'll be a one night only discount, so well worth coming along even just for that discount. I'm telling you now. If you're interested in podcasting and you want to learn more, this is definitely the one that you're going to want to see. Okay, that's about my lot. I'm not going to go anymore. I was only supposed to do 20 minutes. I've done nearly 3/4 of an hour. Thanks to everyone who has popped in tonight and left their comments, and I'm delighted with them. And if there's anything you want to know, don't be afraid to PM me, or you can DM me on Twitter as well. You can find me on all of the usual platforms across social media, and you can also find me on the website as well. The website is there. It's compassmedia.ie is the actual website. But if you want to listen to any of the podcasts that we've recorded, you'll find them all on the website. You'll also find them on iTunes and also on Mixcloud as well. And we're also on Anchor and Stitcher Radio and iHeartRadio, all of the podcast platforms or providers as well. So, and as I said, if you want to reach out to me, please do get in contact with me. You'll get me here on Facebook. You'll get me on Twitter, on LinkedIn. If you want, send me an email, alan@compassmedia.ie. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, pop me over an email. Let me know, and we'll see if we can fit you in. I know we have loads of content for the next month or two, but we are recording every week, and I'd love to have you on as a guest to talk about your expertise, what you can and what else is that you can bring to the table as well, that will help our audience as much as your own. Really chuffed for you to get in contact with me. As I said, if you want to come on the podcast, please do get in contact with me. Email me, alan@compassmedia.ie. Final thing I'm going to say to you is if you are going to look or listen to any of the podcasts, a little favour from me would be is if you could rate and review it on iTunes. Okay? Very important part. It helps the podcast get recognised on a wider scale, because obviously the more reviews and the more ratings you receive, iTunes will bump it up the mark, and you'll eventually get that. It's always great to get reviews. It's always great to get feedback on the show. We'd love to hear your comments. If there's anything that you'd like to know, or there's any podcasts that you'd like us to source guests for, please do let us know. We would really be delighted. We want to help you, and we want to make the podcast successful and make them interesting, and also make them very helpful for people to learn from. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for. Training is knowledge. Fundamentally is training, and training is fundamentally knowledge. How do you do it? Well, this is what we can do. This is how we can help you. Thrilled that you stick around. Thanks, Nolene, for your comments. Thanks so much, Alan. Really, really, really interesting. Get in contact. Let us know what you think of the podcasts. If you want any more information, give me a shout. I'm just going to pop this up here. That is the Eventbrite. For the Eventbrite, I'll take that one down because it gets a bit confusing. That is the link for the Eventbrite on the screen there to register for the talk, which is happening on the 25th. Now, I just have to keep going back to this. It's on the 25th in the Bank of Ireland in Stillorgan. Delighted for you to come along. Plus, the other side of that is and you'll love this, there's a little bit of free pizza. And there's teas and coffees and bickies as well, supplied by the bank. And I have to give a quick shout out to the bank, saying the guys Daniel and Jan and Gavin and Carl and all the guys up in the Bank of Ireland in Stillorgan in the workbench. So good, brilliant venue, great venue if you're going to have a meeting or you want to do a presentation. It really is. It's the best place to do it. And, you know, they are so helpful in promoting it and also so helpful on the night as well. So, guys, have a great evening. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. And as I said, if you need any more information, send me a PM. I'd love to know. Love to talk to you. Have a great week. On the next time, have a good time. And remember, what do I always say? Be social. On the next time. Bye-bye.